My name is Naima Patterson. I am co-choreographer and co-director and also dancing in the piece.
My name is Leona Bramond. I am dancing and performing in this piece.
My name is Tula B. Strong, and I am co-choreographer and co-director in the piece.
My name is Jasmine Stanley, and I am a dancer.
All right, so we have just literally completed the... it took so long to get to this point. It feels surreal, at least for me, that we are here, done. It still hasn't hit me yet. So I want to hear from each of you guys, like, how are you feeling about this weekend and feeling done? And I'm sure there must have been so many emotions from day to day. But I just want to get how you're feeling in this moment, capturing the moment. Okay, Nay, can we start with you?
Yeah, honestly, it still doesn't feel real. Like, I can't believe that we've done it. 'Cause we were figuring out how to do it for so long.
Yeah.
And we also had a lot of rehearsals. There were like many years of like resetting. This piece has gone through many different iterations. And so the fact that like over this past 3 weeks, like it finally felt like solid and felt real. But at the same time, so surreal. But I also feel very grateful for all of you. This piece started as conversation, and then became music, and then became movement, and then became a full film. And I'm just so grateful that it was you all that I did this with.
Yay. Jazz.
I'm feeling really excited. I'm trying to remember the first day that we worked on this, or the first moment that this was like not envisioned, because I'm sure it was envisioned long before I became a part of the project, but yes, the first part, like that first moment of this experience. And it's really difficult to remember. I don't really remember, but to be in this moment and feeling like it's a story, reiterating what Naima said, that it just is surreal. It doesn't feel, it was a long process, but that process, you couldn't see the whole picture at each baby step, but now that you're seeing this whole picture now, it all comes together really well, really nicely.
I'll add to that,
please.
because I remember I hadn't met Jasmine, but I met her via a video of her dancing on like your laptop, and Tula was telling me, this is who you're gonna be dancing with, and I was like, sick, can't wait to meet her. So it was cool just like meeting you on this project, right, and then creating these friendships that we have now throughout this whole process. And I do remember the first rehearsal I jumped into with Tula, and it's just crazy to think how different of a place I was in my life to now, and it's kind of cool that the piece just also mirrors like our personal lives and how much growth we've all gone through as individuals. I think that's really reflected in the work, personally, because I was in a very different place when we started this, so it's cool.
I think for me, I'm getting even emotional, just like starting to recap all of the different things that we've been through. Like, I feel like when we are always in a room together, it's so much joy and so much laughter and so much just like women talk, you know, like talks of just what we're going through in life and like being well and making sure that we're all well throughout throughout the whole journey, you know. And I feel like the process of getting to where we are right now, filming, like, was so hard. COVID was so hard. Like it got pushed back so many times. We like literally, it was only like 3 weeks ago that we had to switch locations and come here and like put it all together. And then there's just other things that just been so difficult to get to this place. And so it does feel, I'm still in a place of like, this didn't really happen. I definitely am dreaming now. But I don't know. I feel like if once I sit down, it might all hit me. You know, like once I I think I've been on adrenaline, you know, going for the weekend, but it might hit me. And then, I don't know, maybe sadness because I'll be done. We're done. Yeah.
The process was slow, but I feel like it wouldn't have been the same.
Oh yeah.
If we had performed this in what year was that? 2020?
Yeah,
It wouldn't have been the same.
absolutely.
Yeah, I weirdly feel like it had to be on film.
Yeah.
And it was like meant for that, like all the
Yeah.
nuances of the piece.
Yeah,
That's very true.
yeah, I agree. Okay, I want to talk about, let's see. So we talked about characters. We should talk about characters. We haven't talked about characters. Yeah, we should talk about characters. And can we just talk about who, maybe just the theme in general, then we'll go deeper into the characters. So the theme that I think Nay can talk about this, Naima can talk about this more, but because you were like one of the originators of this first even topic with Marcus Norris. And I'm just gonna shout out some of the themes and you could develop it more, but this theme of generational cycles in African American families. And that came up when I was told about the project, but you were in the very, very initial conversation. So can you talk about that first?
Yeah, it was actually, it started as conversations about relationships, romantic relationships, and how we realized that our relationships with our family affects how we interact with our friends and with the people that we're in romantic relationships with, and how that's kind of where you find the way that generational cycles might stop you from moving forward in those relationships. And that's kind of where the like, I tried so hard for you came from. It was like, if these generational, like, not curses, 'cause I don't like to call them curses, but these patterns that I want to break are stopping me. Like, I tried so hard, but I couldn't get past that. And so I did try that really hard for you, but that was where it stopped. And so when me and Tula started having conversations, I think it naturally became like, I think we focus on the pattern and where that pattern comes from. And so I think you hear it in the music that it goes from like this like, oh, something happened, I don't know what to do with it, I think I can handle it, to like, oh no, this is really something I need to address, until we finally get to the third generation that finally figures out how to cope with it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then what else came out of our process is that we did, you just said it, want to showcase these three generations of individuals, right? So we had Jasmine, the matriarch, the grandmother, Naima, the daughter of Jasmine, and then Leanna, the granddaughter of Jasmine, was what we were going for. And if I could add in, it took us a while to kind of figure out how to do that in the movement.
Oh yeah.
You know, do you guys have, Lay, you just?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just remember one of the first like workshopping activities we all did together was like journaling or like writing out what it felt like to be in that role. And I'm already the youngest in my family, so I felt like it wasn't easy for me, but I remember had like a full page of how I felt to be the youngest. And then trying to pull that into movement, what that looked like, and how I played with submission, and always being in this seat of learning. Like, I'm always going to learn. I can never teach anybody anything. But that was what was cool about how we built the solo and how I interacted with Naima and Jazz. Like, what are you bringing to the table as this third generation of like woman, and what cycles are you breaking, and how can you reflect that in your body? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
When I was usually I identify closer with the younger character person role. And so I struggled a lot in the beginning to identify with being the grandmother, the matriarch, the teacher, the protector, because that wasn't usually the role that I played in different things. Even in my family and in my regular life, I was always learning and looking up to other people. But I think, and this is why I really believe that this film happened when it needed to happen, because this past year, first I lost 2 grandmothers, like in the span of a month earlier this year. And so being able to, that experience and reflecting back on my relationship with my grandparents, with my grandmother specifically, helped me to embody this character a lot more. And also, I don't know about y'all, but this pandemic turned me into an old lady. Like, I don't go out no more. I go to bed early. I wake up early. I read my book. I watch my show, and that's it. That's my life, right?
Yeah.
And that's. And I mean, to be honest, that's how I know my grandmothers. I know
Minding
going
their
to my
business.
grandma's house in the morning, she'd watch her stories, and then The Price is Right would come on, and that's how I knew, okay, it's my turn to watch my shows. And she'd be in the kitchen, you know, just taking care of things, cleaning up the house. She'd just be watching me watch my shows, getting excited, like, and yeah, just reflecting on these stories and these experiences and my relationships with my grandmothers really helped me to embody this character.
Do you want to say anything about your character?
Yeah, I think I channeled a lot of family members at first, and then over the process, I realized that I've been all of these characters before. Kind of like, at first, you know, thinking you can handle it and like you can carry everything the way that a grandmother would.
Yeah.
Then realizing that this thing is too big for you to handle on your own. And I think my character represents that moment of feeling stuck and like the rage and like anxiety that could come from that, but while still wanting to protect the people you love. And so for my character, I tried to sit there, but I also relate to Leona's character, that like breath that you take after you figure out how to get past that feeling too.
Yeah.
So I think there was also genuine pride when I was watching Leona during her solo, because it was like, yeah, she did it. She did it for us, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of took myself back to former versions of myself to get there.
You know what was like one of my favorite conversations that we've ever had in our rehearsal process? It was a day we were in the studio, and I think we had originally started focusing on this idea of toxic femininity, and we were focusing on so much, I think at the very beginning, on the cycles of the negative cycles that we saw in the women in our families. But then there was a moment in rehearsals where we kind of just like contextualized all of that, and we realized, wait, but even the negative cycles that we've seen, like even if we, for example, I have seen a hyper independent woman in my family line, even that behavior is, I see where it comes from, I acknowledge where it comes from, and I'm actually, in the circumstances that were presented to the women in my family, I'm actually proud of them, you know? And there's a moment in rehearsal when we were like, wait, let's like switch and look at all the strengths that we see in the women in our family that we are pulling upon in this, from this piece. And what if we can recontextualize even the weaknesses as strengths? And I think that was one of the most powerful moments for me, because I remember hearing like beautiful stories of your grandmother, and I think you talked about your mom, and I talked about my grandmother, and hearing about your family too. That was one of my favorite things from this process so far.
I was just gonna say, like, offering, it was a beautiful process, like, personally, of offering compassion and forgiveness, like, to the women in my family, and understanding, like, oh, these patterns happened for a reason, like, they literally were doing their best. And I just think that that's beautiful. I see that a lot in the piece, is everyone is just seeing each other for doing their best, and like, just throwing a lot of love, compassion, and forgiveness to each other.
Is there anything that anyone wants to say? I feel like we've been talking for a minute. So is there anything that feels like we have to say it? I want to talk about this thing.
I'm just really grateful for the music and how it informed a lot of the tone of and like the breath of just this whole piece. And I'm just really, I love the music. So just shouts out to Marcus.
That's it from us. That's it from us. Bye. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bye.
Bye.